wow, how do we guard our relationship really early on so that it could be as pure as possible? It could go in the right direction. That was just like a defining moment, I think, early on in our relationship. I was saying, like, how do we be super proactive and like
Yeah.
guard the beauty of what we have?
Hey guys, welcome back to the Something New show where we like to help marriages, families, entrepreneurs, and people that are just wanting to learn how to live a life worth celebrating. And I'm here today with my husband, Jordan. Hey, babe.
Hey, good to be with you.
Yeah, you too. It's a lovely fall morning here in Colorado, and we promised this episode when we came back from our summer vacation. And without further ado, here it is. We are going to be talking about how we have taken certain steps through our 20 years of marriage to prevent having an affair. Now, it happens. We have had friends that have walked through that, and sadly, it's stuff that could hopefully be prevented by following the things that we've chosen to do in our marriage.
Yeah. Yeah. So just out the gate, we share this with like humility and fear and trembling because like we know life is
So,
fragile,
so
right?
fragile.
And so just out the gate, we want to say that like, but we want to share things that have helped us along the journey for
And
over
they're
20
not
years.
like
Yeah.
100% tried and true, but we have people say, like, how have you guys avoided that? And I think that there are some really intentional things that we've
Yeah.
done because it is so easy. I mean, nowadays it's so easy to fall away from each other. I think that's really the root of an affair is honestly not like somebody's intentionally looking for that. If I were to really get into it, I'm like, I don't think anyone I've ever known was like setting out to like go do that. I think that most of the time you drift apart as a couple and then, you get a little bit curious. And then before you know it, something silly happens that you weren't really wanting to happen. So, again, like you said, we are not better than anyone else. We are just literally as prone to making mistakes as any other human listening. And I want to say that again, like you said, super humble posture here when we share. But I think it is important for us to mentor younger couples that might be saying, "Hey, I travel, you travel, like this could easily drift apart. What are some things that we can do to really safeguard this
Yeah.
relationship?"
Yeah. And I think part of it goes back to a conversation we had when we were dating long distance. I remember this clear as day. And I was still at my university years. We both met at ORU. And I was at a bench outside the dorms. And I had recently, seen this scripture about not letting the foxes get into the vineyard. And this whole concept just struck me of like, wow, how do we guard our relationship really early on so that it could be as pure as possible? It could go in the right direction. And then I'm grateful we took that into our marriage. And while it's had highs and lows and ups and downs, just like every marriage, that was just like a defining moment, I think, early on in our relationship. I was saying, like, how do we be super proactive and like
Yeah.
guard the beauty of what we have? So we're going to walk through a couple of different things today, just like habits and practices. And again, the reason why we're sharing this is that we talk with some people, like others are like, oh gosh, I never thought of that. Or,
Yeah.
oh man, I really wish my spouse would implement that habit, even if they haven't, had an affair or gone down that road. So again, that's the heart behind it today.
And I remember when we had that conversation about the foxes getting into the garden, you said, "Hey, we're going to put some really good, just simple habits in place early on because you were like, it's not going to be some big thing that probably takes us out. It would be some little thing that takes people out, right? It's some little thing that can kind of creep in and you think of it as no big deal. And then you minimize that little thing. And before you know it, that little thing is the thing that breaks you up. And I want nothing more than for our friends and the people listening to have a happy marriage and a healthy home. And so that takes work. That takes a lot of work.
A lot of work.
And so these disciplines that we're about to share are pretty simple, but it does take work. I mean, I was just on a call today with somebody and we were just talking about the discipline of money, right? And how you can't really live in a certain mindset with money unless you're disciplined about it from the onset. And it's hard. It's like all these things, marriage, money, business. All of these things are hard, but you have to be disciplined. And we were just simply talking about living within your budget and having to make really hard cuts in order to live within your budget so that you can have the thriving business that you want. But I just was thinking about it. It's just the simple disciplines that we're about to share are that's how basic they are. However, they are basically living within your budget. You chose to get married. You chose this as the person. So make this person the person, like make it the best it can be, and don't start to slide away and entertain these small things. Looking for the perfect vacation spot to disconnect from everything, put your feet in the softest sand, and enjoy a fresh, renovated 2-bedroom, 2.5-bath townhouse right on the beach in my favorite place in the world? Well, 30A is situated in the panhandle of Florida, and I'd love for you to check out Something Blue 30A on Instagram and make it the perfect place for your next vacation. Let's get to it. The first area we want to talk about is communication boundaries. So we talk about how we don't ever privately text or DM somebody of the opposite gender without including each other on the thread. It's a very simple thing, but we just decided we're not going to communicate directly one-on-one with other people without looping our spouse in so that the communication is fully transparent. The second thing is we want to avoid venting or sharing our personal struggles with somebody of the opposite gender as well, because then you start to get like tethered a little bit in the heart of like what you're going through, and then that other person wants to be there for you when it can start to feel a little bit emotionally connected in the communication lane, when you could share that with, first of all, God, second of all, your husband, hopefully, and then maybe a best friend. Like that's the safer place, a best friend or even a mentor.
Yeah.
Like I have
mentor or therapist
a
if you
couple
need.
older ladies in my life that I look up to as mentors, and I just feel like I can tell them anything, and it's just so comforting. So that's who we want to share that with. And then the third one was to be transparent when you are talking to your spouse instead of holding something back. Like in the communication avenues, I think sometimes you creep apart because you don't tell them everything, but it's just so much freedom lives in completely just saying everything that's on your heart and mind. Now, timing is everything there too. You don't want to share at the wrong time of day or whenever you're inconsiderate. Sometimes it can be inconsiderate to dump when the other person isn't ready. But I just think it's important to not withhold what's going on truly.
Yeah. And I think we've had a couple moments lately, the last 2 weeks, where like, I need you to seriously listen and hear this from my heart. And it's easy because I think as spouses, people can get to a point where they're like, oh, they don't really care about this, or they're not going to care if I share. Or, hey, in the past or for the last 20 years, they cut me off when I go this direction. So I think we have to get really clear with each other sometimes of like, this really matters. Listen to me, please. Hear my heart out here. But when people shut that off and they'd be like, oh, it's not going to help or change anything, that's where it gets really dangerous.
Correct. And then the last thing in regards to communication is we don't delete messages or hide our social media interactions from each other. Yeah. So at any time, you can look at my phone, I can look at your phone, we can look at each other's computers, we can read messages, emails, texts, threads, whatever. There's absolutely no hiding. It's just, this is fully me, this is fully you. I think I probably have more people that have access to like everything I see and read and everything besides just my husband. But it's like you do now fully. There's nothing I can hide or have anything secret because it's just all out and open. And there's never, I mean, I leave my phone out, you leave your phone out. There shouldn't be any concern there. Yeah. Just full transparency.
The flip side is every once in a while I want to send you a really fun text, but I can't always because sometimes people are on your phone.
That's true. That's true. Okay. The second area besides communication is physical and situational boundaries. So we have been really intentional to never meet alone with someone of the opposite gender, either in a car, in a public space, out to eat, or in an office. We're just really mindful to have another person there. So if I had to meet with a male professional, I would always bring another coworker with me.
Teammate.
And if you like I remember years ago, you traveled a lot for your work and you had a female teammate that was on the same work trip as you. It made logistical sense for you guys to ride to Denver airport together, but it was just part of our guardrails that you were like, I am not going to do that. I will pay for my extra parking and drive separate so that I'm not in a car alone with another lady. And it was just holding to our values of
Yeah.
like, hey, we're going to do this just to prevent any sort of additional closeness that could come of it. Even though that girl was an amazing person, like
Yeah.
I have full trust.
Remarkable teammate. Yeah.
But it was just following our
Yeah.
simple.
And I'll say this like the 2 or 3 times in 20 years where we've had to like make an exception to that rule because of some crazy logistics or things, then we've been really upfront and clear with each other, right? So there's no surprise or like, wait, what? But that rule is so simple, but like adds a lot. It's really important. And people don't think about that sometimes.
Yeah.
You know?
And then the one other one in the physical touch area in physical location space is besides not just being alone with someone like that, we have been, I feel like, just intentional to be very appropriate physically with our friends of the opposite gender, without going into too much detail. But I mean, I'm just not going to like snuggle up to another guy or, be very touchy with somebody else. And I think anybody that knows you is very aware that you're very respectful of personal boundaries when it comes to females. And we just try to, again, be mindful that very little thing could turn into more.
Yeah. And for folks who don't know, like we work with a team of like 20 ladies on average, like year round for, years and years of our business and our life. And so I bring this up because if you build these habits early on, okay, so if somebody's younger, they're dating, they're engaged, they're newlyweds, they're 20 years in, it's just, it can help you in so many ways just to have those habits. And again, the whole thing behind this conversation today isn't rules or guidelines of this for the sake of rules, but for the health of your marriage, for living in freedom, for living in a better life together.
Yeah. Okay, the third area I want to talk about is emotional and spiritual guardrails. So, we talked about not being too emotionally dumping on somebody of the opposite gender because then they can want to save you, support you, come alongside you, and almost fill a gap in a way that your spouse is supposed to. But in Proverbs, it's a very simple Proverbs that we all probably know. 4:23, guard your heart early. It is, one of the most important things that we can guard. So if you find yourself thinking about or emotionally drawn to someone, it's important to address it quickly. Whether that's like maybe pull back from that friendship or tell your spouse, say, hey, I feel like there might be a weird connection I'm having with this person. I want to be mindful of that. And in the reverse order of that, it's kind of funny because I think we've picked up on things of other people that liked us that we didn't know. Like I was like, oh, I think she's enjoying talking to you, Jordan, and you're like, oh, I didn't even pick up on that, or vice versa.
Yeah,
you're like,
yeah.
that guy was very into you. And I was like, I didn't even realize. So God does provide almost that radar for each other as an insight, to protect what he's brought together. And I think that out of respect, we need to listen to that of our spouse as well and say, oh, okay, like I didn't even realize. I'll put a little bit of a awareness around that friendship going forward. Another emotional thing is, this is a guardrail, is a lot of times we can compare our spouse to other people's spouses and how awesome they maybe are at certain things. And it can always put in that grass is always greener syndrome. And I'm definitely, I can think back to the guilty days of early on in our marriage when we had a really handy friend that was like another couple we hung out with. And I was like, oh, babe, like Steven can sand those cabinets down and paint those cabinets in the kitchen. Can't you do that? And it wasn't that I liked Steven, but I was pointing out something of like
Something you appreciate in life.
I appreciate it.
Yeah,
I was like, oh, he's handy. Can you be more handy? But I think that it was like funny, but to dwell on that for a second, that type of behavior can actually spiral quickly into, I wish my spouse was more like this, and that can pull you guys apart, which then opens you up to other friendships that could lead to an affair. So it's like, be really careful to not get into the what if syndrome or I wish I had syndrome, and instead be like, quickly zone back in and be like, okay, what can I thank God for in the spouse that he gave me?
Yeah. And the grass is greener where you water it. It's not greener on the other side. That applies in relationships and so many things in life.
I agree. And with that emotional and physical friendship wrap up, I would say it's really important to find other couples that respect some of those same values and appropriateness in friendship, because I also could see how this could be a value of ours, but if we get in the wrong crowd, you can be influenced. And so it is important that when you choose friends as married couples, that you're choosing other people that kind of think like you in the ways that they want to grow in their relationships, so that it doesn't become a messy uh, interdynamic thing.
Yeah, for sure.
In closing, we want you guys to have intentional marriage habits. Okay, so just in the positive, those are all kind of protection points. But in the positive, we like to say invest daily in connection, whether that's praying together, talking about your day, and sharing insights about what's going on in your life. I think if you invest daily, even in small little habits, you're going to be just fine. Another recommendation we had was to keep on dating each other, schedule time for each other, even if it's not traditional. It could look all over the map. We say this all the time to people, that especially parents of income families, like both working parents, lots of kids, like the time for dates might not be at night because you're running kids all around to sports.
We've done Friday mornings sometimes.
Friday mornings seem to be like our jam. So yeah, I was going to say be creative, but make sure you're intentional with those times. And then praise your spouse publicly. And I want to just say, I have the best example of this. Jordan always talks so highly of me to others and in front of others, whether I'm in the room or not. And I just want to say thank you for that, because like I'll never forget walking into one of our professional seminars. I was coming in like half day, flying in from another event, and I walked into a room of like 100 people, and they stopped and they were like, "Oh, you must be Mindi. Jordan told us all you were coming and how you're going to make this room brighter when you walk in," and you totally did. And I like couldn't believe it. I was shook, because you just do such a good job of speaking highly of me, and I want to do better at that, but I really do have the best spouse when it comes to that, and I want to say thank you. But I think if we all got in the habit of that, how could we make our spouses feel so loved by simply talking about them in such a loving way towards others, in front or not in front of them?
Yeah, taking those moments to celebrate them. Yeah.
Yeah. And then you can invite accountability. You can ask others that perhaps they have permission in your life to see things. You can ask for accountability to say, hey, if you're seeing something we can improve on, please speak into it. And then I would just say, remembering in your posture to just be a person of grace. To say, hey, I forgive you, I love you, and what can we do better tomorrow?
Yeah, I love it. And again, all these things are habits. I would just want to encourage somebody, it's not too late to start today. So maybe they're at a point where they feel really frustrated. Maybe they're at a point where they're just early on in their relationship, but you can modify behaviors, you can modify choices. And I think it's really important to us, like, how do we keep making choices each and every day in the small things that make us proud of who we are, that we show up with clarity, with confidence, with freedom. We talk about this with our kids. We're like, the more you choose to do the right thing, the more you choose to stay within these kind of healthy guardrails. They don't squelch your life and minimize it. They help you have a better life, when you fulfill those promises to yourself, like, I'm going to live by these values, I'm going to live by these habits, then you show up with more appreciation, and like you're more proud of yourself, more confidence in your relationship as well too. So regardless of where somebody's at, I just want to encourage them to take even one or two things away from today to make their relationship and marriage even better.
Mm-hmm. I love it. Well, this is just part one, guys. This is a conversation that I feel like needs more and more touch points, because there's so much we could get raw and real about when it comes to the world we live in with social media and AI and communication on a whole new level. But I think it's a great start and definitely a good foundational level for all marriages to say, hey, can we just at least start with some of these things so that we can just be preventing any sort of negative foxes to come in our garden, because we want it to flourish and we want it to grow. So
absolutely. Hey, well, we thank you for joining us on this episode of the Something New Show. We're really about helping working parents with faith and leadership in their home and making those lives worth celebrating. So if this resonates with you and you know another friend would love it, please share this episode with them, either on audio or on YouTube. And we'd love if you leave us a review and a rating so more people can hear about the show. But thanks so much, and we'll see you next time on the Something New Show.
Thanks for listening. Be sure to subscribe to the show, rate, review, and share with a friend. Also, follow the Something New Show on Instagram and Facebook. If you want a fuller experience, watch the show on YouTube to help you create a life worth celebrating.